Hi everybody, it's Kristen with Hooks, Books, and Wanderlust, and today I'm here to show you how to crochet my Crossroads beanie pattern. So you are going to need to grab some medium weight yarn that is also known as a CYC4 or Aran weight yarn. It's a pretty broad category. I've got two different yarns that I use for these two different hats here. They're both loops and threads from Michaels. This is Impeccable and this is Soft Classic. The medium weight category is definitely a very broad category. You can have some very thin yarns and some very thick yarns in there. So keep that in mind when you are choosing your yarn. I kind of prefer the Impeccable, which is almost more in the middle of the category. It's not too thick and it's not too thin. It's kind of my favorite Goldilocks version of the yarn. So that's Loops and Threads Impeccable, available at Michaels. Or you can find something comparable. I will put some yarn suggestions in the description box below for you guys too. So besides the yarn, you are also going to need two different hook sizes. You are going to need a 4mm G hook for the brim, and you're also going to need a 5.5mm I hook for the body. So go ahead and grab those, a pair of scissors, tapestry needle, stitch marker if you need it, and if you're going to put a pom-pom on, you might as well go ahead and grab that too, and have that at the ready, and let's get started. Okay, so we're ready to begin our hat, and we're going to start with the brim and work up from there. The brim is going to be worked with our 4mm G hook, and we are going to work in short turned rows to make a long skinny rectangle that will be worked in. It's just simple single crochet worked into the back loop, and that will create that ribbing texture. So to get started, you're going to chain 7. And 7, and go ahead and single crochet into each of the second chain from your hook and each one across, so that you'll have 6 single crochets. I always work into that back bump just because I think it gives a nicer edge, especially when we go to seam it later. So just work that first row of single crochet all the way across. All right. Now for the second row and for each of the like all the rest of the rows until the pattern tells you to stop repeating rows, you are going to do the exact same thing for row 2 as for the rest. So you're going to chain 1, turn your work. You're going to single crochet into the very first stitch. And then the next 4 stitches, you're going to work into the back loop and single crochet. So single crochet into the back loop of each of those next 4 stitches, and then you'll be left with 1 stitch at the end of your row. And for that last one, you're going to work a standard single crochet under both loops. And the reason I'm doing that is because it creates a little bit nicer edge when we get that ribbing going. It doesn't look like much right now, but stick with me, kid, and we'll get this looking really nice. So again, single crochet into the very first, and then single crochet in the back loop only for the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then again, in that very last stitch, you're going to go under both loops and single crochet just as you normally would. So you're going to keep going with that. Depending on what size you're making, the number of rows is going to vary. So go ahead and finish making all of the rows, and I'll meet you back here for the seaming together into the round, okay? Okay, so I just worked the final row of my brim. And if you haven't yet, now is a great time to go ahead and lay your brim all the way out. Grab your measuring tape, measure it, make sure you're on track for your brim circumference, which should be 2 to 3 inches less than your actual head circumference. Okay, so this is going to stretch. The ribbing will, it's very stretchy. So you're definitely going to need to make that shorter than your head circumference. That way you have a nice fitted feel to the hat. So once you've done that and you're all ready, then it's time to go ahead and fold your long skinny rectangle in half, like so. And if you haven't yet, chain one after that last row. And I'm going to turn, and I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch underneath each of the stitches on both layers. So I'm going under both ends, 2 stitches at a time, and slip stitching those together. And I'm going under both loops on both of those stitches every time I do it. And just keep doing that all the way across. And hopefully you didn't drop a stitch anywhere. You should have 6 on both ends. And then chain 1. Now, we don't want this seam on the outside of our work, so go ahead and flip that. Pull that loop up a little bit and move the seam to the inside. And at this point too, you are ready to switch to your larger hook size, which should be the I, or the 5.5 millimeter hook. And we are ready to begin the body. So go ahead and slip your, whoops, that's the tail, not the, here we go. Okay, so go ahead and slip your hook back in there. And for our very first round, now we are working in the round, so no more rows. We're going to be working in joined rounds. And so for our first round, we are going to be working just half double crochet all the way around very evenly. I like to do 1 stitch per row of single crochet. So I had a total of 78 rows in this hat in my brim. So I should have 78 half double crochets going all the way around. And one other thing I'm going to do while I'm working is I'm going to work over part of this yarn tail that I have left over from the beginning of my brim. So I'm going to go ahead and half double crochet in each row all the way around. Try and keep it as even as possible. The more important thing is that you make sure you end with an even number of stitches. No odd numbers. So I've worked over part of that tail now. I'm gonna drop it, and I'm gonna weave that back in the other direction after I'm done with the hat. So I'm not gonna work over any more of that at this time. So I'm just gonna keep going, half double crochet in one in every row, all the way around. And then I will meet you back at the end to join. All right, so I'm working the last stitch of this round, and to join the round, we are just going to slip stitch to the top of the very first half double crochet of the round to close it. So if you haven't, now is a great opportunity to to put your hook down for a second and go back and count all of those half double crochets all the way around. Make sure you have an even number. If you're following the pattern, make sure you have the pattern number unless you had to make a modification. So with that, we are ready to proceed to round 2. So for round 2, we're going to chain 1, and it's another half double crochet round, but this round is going to be worked into the 3rd loop from the previous round. So if you're unfamiliar with the 3rd loop, let me help you find it. So when you have your half doubles worked in the round, you'll notice that you have your top V, right? You see the little V here. Let me use my hook. It's my little pointer. Okay, so you've got the V's here on your stitches, the top V. You've got your front loop, your back loop, and that makes your top V. But if you pull that, if you turn that just a little more, you'll see there's actually another little loop back there, and we call that the 3rd loop. That's only on the half double crochet and a few other select stitches, most common on the half double. So the way you're going to work into that is, again, we're doing half double crochets. The only thing that we're doing different here is our hook placement. So we're going to find that third loop. And the way I like to do it is normally when you work into a stitch, you'll go into the underneath that top V from the front of your fabric to the back. But what I like to do is I actually go in from the back, especially on the first stitch, because it can be a little tricky to get into because it's tighter. So I'll actually go in from the back and then just kind of boop, like twist my hook. So it's like I just push it back like that, and then it finds the third loop for me. So I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop and half double crochet. So again, I'm just going underneath that top V from the back and finding that third loop when I pull it forward, yarn over, pull up a loop, and half double crochet. So just keep doing that all the way around. Nothing else special. So it's just some half double crochet, working it into that third loop. It's going to get us that really pretty texture, pushing that front, the top V to the front of your fabric. So go ahead and work that all the way around, and I will meet you back here for round 3. You will slip stitch to join this round as well. Okay, so I'll meet you back here for round 3. All right, so I am slip stitching to the very first stitch of this round to close it, and we are ready for round 3. For round 3, you're just going to do a round of single crochet worked in that third loop again. So we're going to get another ridge of that same texture by working this next round. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and I'm going to do the same trick where I go in backwards to my stitch and then kind of flip it so I can get that third loop, and just single crochet all the way around as you work. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back at the end. All right, we are coming up on the end of round 3, and I am working that last stitch, and again I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the very first single crochet of the round to join and close my round. So there you have your first 3 rounds worked. You've got these 2 lovely little ridges, and now, if you don't mind me nagging and reminding you, is a great opportunity to go back and count those stitches again. The next round that we are going to work is the crossed doubles, and that requires an even number of stitches. So make sure that you've got the correct number of stitches before proceeding on to the next round. So let's go ahead and start round 4. So working the cross double crochet in the round, I like to start mine. I don't like to have just a single, chain 3 and then go into my doubles. So I work my first cross double kind of with the chain 3 part of it and then work it backwards. And so I'm going to show you what I mean by that. It's a little tricky to show in the pattern photos. So I think sometimes this is one of the areas where video is very helpful. So let's go ahead and chain 3. And that chain 3 is going to count as the first double crochet in our first crossed pair, okay? So now you're going to go ahead and yarn over. And now because this chain 3 counts as a double crochet, this is the stitch, this very first stitch that we slip stitched into from the previous round is at the base of that chain 3. So it's like that double crochet is coming out of that stitch. So with that in mind, to work our cross double, we're going to work it backwards, and our double crochet that we're going to work for the second of our pair is going to go into the last stitch of the previous round. Okay, so I've got my yarn over, and I'm going to insert my hook underneath this last stitch of the previous round, yarn over and pull up a loop, and complete my double crochet. So now you can see it looks a little funny. It'll take shape once we close the round, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. But one thing I will note here is it might be helpful to use a stitch marker in that third chain, just so you know where to slip stitch to when you come back around at the end of the round. If you don't want to, if you're familiar enough with your stitches that you know what it looks like and can find it easily, then you don't need to, but it might help you. So now we are ready to continue on with the rest of our traditionally worked cross double crochets. So again, because that chain 3 was coming out of the very first stitch, we're not including this as our next stitch. So when I say skip the next stitch, I'm actually referring to the second stitch, okay? Because that first stitch has already been worked with the chain 3. So you're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the one after. So you'll notice that that makes that double crocheted sit at an angle. Now you're going to go ahead and double crochet into the skipped stitch. And there you have your first cross double crochets. So as you can see, this stitch is worked over 2 stitches, which is why making sure you count your stitches from round 3, is a important thing to do. So let's keep going with that. So again, we are going to skip the next stitch. Now here's where we already worked, so we're not counting that, okay? Skip the next one, double crochet in the one after. And then double crochet into the skipped stitch. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. So skip one, double crochet next, and then double crochet into the skipped stitch. You're working in front of that double crochet that you make first, so you get that kind of crossed look here, okay? So just keep doing that all the way around until you come to the end, and I will meet you back here then so I can show you where to slip stitch to join this round, okay? Okay, so I am getting ready to work my final cross double of this round. And I just want to point out before I do, I have 2 stitches left unworked. Don't get confused by that stitch, which was used in our very first cross double that we made with the chain 3, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and double crochet and then into the skipped stitch, same thing. And now I'm ready to join, and I'm going to kind of pull my little chain 3 out here so that I can get access to it a little bit better. But you can see here that this top V right here is the top of this double crochet that we made. That means this chain right after it is the top of our chain 3. So you're going to slip your hook underneath those 2 loops and slip stitch there. And that is round 4. If you did not end up with 2 stitches at the end here, then you probably need to recount your round 3 and make sure that you have the correct number of stitches, and then, or just look back and make sure you didn't accidentally skip one where you shouldn't have or something like that. So that is round 4 with our cross doubles, and that is our first pattern repeat. So our pattern repeat is rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. The difference being obviously that every repeat that you make of this round 1 is not going to be worked into the side of your brim. It's just going to be a round of half double crochet worked into each of your stitches here. So for round 5, we're just going to chain 1, and I'm going to half double into that top of that chain 3, half double into the top of every double crochet all the way around. And then when you get to the end, just slip stitch to join like usual. And it just keeps repeating over from there. For round 6, you'll work into the 3rd loop again with another round of half double crochet. And then round 7 is single crochet into the 3rd loop. And then round 8 is the cross doubles again, where you're working that chain 3 modified cross double for the very first one. So just keep repeating those as indicated by the pattern for the size you're working, and I will meet you back here to start decreasing for the crown, okay? Okay, so we are back, and I have finished working all of my full repeats, and since I'm working an adult version of this hat, I've got 3 full repeats. So I've got 1, 2, and 3 here. All right, so that puts my next round at round 13. So for the final repeat of our hat, we are going to still work the same sequence of rounds, but some of those rounds are going to include decreased stitches so that we can start subtracting stitches from our work and giving the hat some shape in and form the shape of the crown. So that way it also reduces some of the bulk at the top of our hat when we go to cinch it closed later. So for our first round of our final repeat, we are going to chain 1, and just like every other repeat, we're going to half double crochet into each stitch all the way around. Nothing fancy. We're not decreasing yet, so you're just going to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch all the way around, just like you have been. So go ahead and finish that, slip stitch to join, and then we'll get ready for round 14. All right, so that is the first round of our final repeat done. Now you should have the same number of stitches in this round that you started in round 1 with. You have not decreased yet, so it should all still be the same number of stitches, okay? Now, for the second round of our final repeat, we are still going to do another round of half double crochet in the 3rd loop, but we're going to do half double crochet 2 together. That's a decrease stitch for the half double crochet. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 to start the round, just like always, yarn over just like always, find that 3rd loop and pull up a loop. Now normally you would yarn over and finish your half double crochet, but we are going to half double crochet 2 together. So you are going to yarn over, find the 3rd loop of the next stitch, and pull up a loop. So now you should have 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook, just like so. And you're going to keep doing that. So again, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the 3rd loop of the next stitch. You should have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, insert your hook into the 3rd loop of the next stitch after, pull up a loop, and now you should have 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 5 loops. And just keep doing that all the way around. And what that's going to do is it's going to take your stitch count that you started with in the previous round and divide it in 2. That way you know how many you need to count at the end of your round. So just keep going ahead and doing those half double crochet 2 togethers in the 3rd loop all the way around, and I will meet you back here. Whoops, I just got into the zone. I got in the zone, I forgot what I was doing. Okay, so sorry. All right, so go ahead and keep doing those half double crochet decreases in the 3rd loop all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round to join and close and just kind of show you what this round looks like in our final repeat. All right, so I am coming up on my last 2 stitches from the previous round, and again, because I worked with an even number of stitches, I should have exactly 2 stitches left to work my final decrease. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to slip stitch to the very top of my first decrease from the round to join it. And so now when you set it down and you kind of take a look at it, get my hook out of the way, you can see how taking out half the stitches here has really started to kind of curve the hat inwards, which is exactly what we want as we get up towards the crown. So we are ready to do the 3rd round of our final repeat for this hat, and that is again a round of single crochet in the 3rd loop. We are not decreasing this round, so we're going to work single crochet in the 3rd loop just like we had through all of the other rounds. It's actually not different at all, even given the decreases. So you're still gonna find your 3rd loop in the exact same way. So go ahead and chain 1 and find that 3rd loop, pull up a loop, and single crochet all the way around. You still got that 3rd loop from the decreases, and this is going to help give those ridges a nice standout look without looking funky when you try and decrease over it, because believe me, I tried that. It's not pretty. So we're going to go ahead and finish our round of single crochet in the 3rd loop. Go ahead, slip stitch to join to close the round when you have completed it, and I will meet you back here then. All right, and we are back. We've just finished the 3rd round of our final repeat. And while we did not decrease in this round, you can still tell how even just working a standard round still helps keep that curve to continue inward. So now for our final round, we are going to work the crossed doubles. Now, the cross double as you know from working our very first repeat, and every repeat coming, our first one looks kind of weird because we've got the chain stitches in there with it. And because we're decreasing, it's going to finish a little differently than we have in previous rounds as well. So I'm going to walk you through that. The only other caveat that I'm going to tell you is that now that we have decreased one of these rounds, whether you have an even number or not, you may still end up with one stitch left over instead of two at the end of this next round. So I'm going to show you what to do for that as well. So don't fret, okay? So go ahead, and we are ready to start our final round of our final repeat. So instead of chaining 3 like we have for all of the previous cross doubles, we are going to chain 2. And that is going to serve as our first partially worked double crochet, okay? So again, that chain 2 counts as it's coming out of this very first stitch right here. So for our cross double, just like in before, we're gonna work a second partial double crochet this time, and we're gonna still work it in that very last stitch from the previous round, so before your chain 2. So you're gonna yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. So you've still got those 2 partials are crossed, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2. So that is going to act as the first crossed double crochet decrease. That is a mouthful to say. I had to really slow down to say that. So now you're ready to go ahead and work your subsequent ones, and it's a little bit more straightforward moving on. So again, this stitch here is the base of our chain 2, so we're not counting that one. We're going to skip 1, and then we're going to work a partial double crochet into that next stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So you've got the first half of your double crochet worked. Now we are going to yarn over, insert our hook into the skipped stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, I can't get it to stick. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook. You should have 3 loops left on your hook now. Yarn over and pull through all 3. So now we have taken 2 stitches and made them 1. So let's do it again. Get myself some more yarn here. Yarn over, skip your next stitch and make that partial double crochet into the next one. So there's my first. I have not pulled over. I'm not going to finish my double crochet, right? I'm going to now yarn over and insert my hook into that skipped stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 for my second partial double crochet. And now I'm ready to complete my stitch, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Let's do it one more time here, and then I'll let you take off with it, okay? So you're going to skip 1, work a partial double crochet into the next, and then partial double into the skipped stitch. You're left with 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. So you can see that's going to mimic the look of the regular cross double, but it's going to reduce our stitches. So go ahead and do that all the way around. When you get to the end, if you have 2 stitches left, awesome. Work another decrease just like we've been doing. If you have 1 stitch left, I'm going to show you what to do with that, okay? All right, so I've come up on the end of this round, and as you can see, I only have 1 stitch left unworked here. This next stitch here, we worked into with the very first decrease of our round when we did the chain 2 combination, right? So normally I would hope to have 2 stitches here, but because of how we decreased in the number of stitches we started with, I'm left with 1. But it's not a big deal. If you don't end with 2, which you probably won't, then it's okay. You can just do this trick that I'm going to show you here to kind of make it work still. Now, I thought about putting a double crochet in here, and the reason I didn't is because I feel like that would just help make the seam stand out that much more, and I didn't want to draw attention to that. I wanted something that was still going to look like the cross double. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to do a cross double decrease, but I'm going to skip that last stitch that we haven't worked yet, and I'm going to work into my first partial is going to work into the same stitch we worked our first decrease of the round into, okay? So work your first partial there. So you're gonna have 2 partials coming out of that one. And then you're just gonna go ahead back to that skipped stitch and work your second partial and finish your decrease. And then when you're done, because we combined our chain and our partial at the beginning with 1 stitch, we're gonna work into the top of the stitch, not the top of the chain 2. So go ahead and slip stitch to the top of that stitch to join. And there you have. Now those 2 are going to be a little closer together than all the others. You're not going to notice that once you get it cinched, so it's not that big a deal, okay? And so that is the last round of our final repeat. Now, if you want to make this into a bun beanie, then what I would recommend doing is working 1 more round of single crochet, not a decrease round, just regular old single crochet, 1 in each stitch all the way around, and then tie off and weave in your ends. And that'll give you kind of the more appropriate opening for a bun beanie. And it'll give you a little more stability that these decrease stitches don't give you by adding that round of single crochet. But since we're working the hat in this video, I'm gonna go ahead and tie off and cut a nice like 8 to 10 inch tail. You want to leave yourself a really good length of tail, maybe even a foot or so, 12 inches, whatever you're comfortable with. You're going to use that long tail to thread and cinch, weave in and out of your stitches in this final round to cinch the top of your hat closed. So go ahead and do that. I'm actually at the end of my yarn. I finished it. This right here. I played yarn chicken and I won. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull that out. And then go ahead and grab a tapestry needle or a yarn needle. It's usually got a bigger eye and a blunt tip. And thread your tail. So I always fold mine over and just poke it through. And then you're going to just weave in and out of every stitch. So in, out, all the way around. All right, I've come back around to the beginning. I'm going to go back in 1 more stitch on the other side of my tie off knot. And now I'm just going to take this yarn tail and pull it up. Nice and tight. And now you are ready to go ahead and weave in your tail. And when you weave in, this serves 2 purposes. Weave in your ends and really secure the opening to be closed because it wants to kind of pop back open a little bit. So you're going to just work your needle around the tops of those stitches 1 more time, or maybe even 2 more times around, just to really cinch it closed. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get through every single stitch, but do your best. Pull it tight as you go. And once you've gone around the top enough times to feel secure about it, just take your yarn needle and poke it right down the middle of the hat. You're going to put that tail on the inside of your hat, flip it inside out. Pull that tail through. And then you're going to work it around the inside of your hat in another circle. And this is just to really secure everything really nicely. All right, and when you've done that, you can go ahead and just secure and make a little knot, pull it almost all the way through, and then bead your needle through it so that it kind of makes a knot like that. I usually do that a couple of times. And then just weave it down in. And you're all set. Go ahead and snip it. And there you go. And if you want to add a pom-pom, you can certainly do that. Don't forget to weave in your other end. You don't want that hanging down on you when you're wearing it. That would be sad or silly. And you're all set. And so there is your Crossroads beanie. Add a pom if you do. I highly recommend the pom-pom buttons because then you can change them out, or you know, if you're not feeling like a pom-pom one day versus another day, you can remove it or whatever you want to do, or if you just need to remove it just to wash the hat, that's always a nice option to have a removable pom-pom. So I will link the buttons that I like to use for that below for you. That's it for this pattern. If you have any questions or problems with it, I'm linking the written pattern in the description box for you. It's going to have like the free version on my blog, as well as the PDF version, which you can purchase, that's got multiple sizes written. And if you have any questions or problems trying to work the pattern or the stitches, drop them in the comments below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.